Hey guys, what's up? This is the Vinyl Casket. I'm your host, Nick, and this is the home to the lamest taste. You're tuning in on Twitch or watching later on YouTube at the Vinyl Casket or at Vinyl Casket. This is going to be my second TV show review. So this is going to tie in as like a sequel to my last review that I did, which was for season 1 of the HBO show Betty. This is going to be for season 2, which is another 6 episodes on HBO and HBO Max. That follows, basically it's just a continuation of the show. Nothing super drastic changes, but premise wise, it's a group of like 5 or 6 uh early 20s females living in the boroughs of New York City, that are super invested in the skate community and the trials and tribulations that they're going through. This is a very progressive season, I would say personally. But before we really get into it, let me just plug myself. You can subscribe on YouTube at the Vinyl Casket, and on Instagram you can follow at Vinyl Casket and Vinyl Casket Comics, which I post my record collection, my comic collection, all sorts of cool stuff. Um, but yeah, we'll get right into it. So I was very confused until I started to find some things out and do a lot more research about the show. So I'll just elaborate on the things that I found out. So all the actors and actresses, almost all of them, like a huge portion of them, are actual real life skaters that are part of like a skate crew that are actually, um, they're actual professional, semi professional skateboarders that make tapes and do all this stuff. So I didn't even mention this in my previous review about the acting talent, right? I didn't even touch on that because, like, in my head, I was just watching something that was so real to me that I didn't even think about it. And this makes sense why, in a professional standpoint, you would look at it and be like, well, the acting's not from character to character, isn't super fluid, isn't, some are hit or miss, some are different, some you can tell, aren't really actors, whatever. But this makes sense why. Also, found out that there's a whole other movie that ties into this whole narrative, right? There was a 2018 movie that you can watch on Hulu called Skate Kitchen, which that title is referenced at the end of this season, um, which is super cool. I was super when I saw Skate Kitchen, I'm like, that looks really familiar. At the end of the season, I then was doing research or whatever, and I saw that these people, like, what else have they been in? They had all been in the same stuff basically. And Skate Kitchen was a movie that they had made in 2018 featuring them, and I was like very impressed that I didn't figure this out in the last when I did my research for the last video. Um, so this really ties it in with the timeline of this. So before I talk, I'm going to talk about. I have a lot of notes, but I'm going to talk about the themes that this season goes through. I'm going to talk about the acting, the visuals, um, setting of the story, and it ties in with visuals and everything. I'll talk about the characters, the plot, and then my overall rating of the show. So we'll start off with we're talking about the I'll just talk about the timeline a little bit. So in the last season 1 that came out in 2020, around May 2020, 6 episodes. This is all probably almost completely likely everything was filmed before COVID really took off, right? And then in this second season, COVID's in full, early COVID probably, but it's still in full swing. Masks, everything, whatever. So I was like, what happened? How do you go from the summer to this is October? Because at the last, I was trying to say it was October, November, based on how they're dressed. I'm from New York, so how, I understand like the seasonal change and everything, and how they dress is very accurate. Like you could just see the clothing changes super dramatic from one season to the other. But that's because at the end of the last episode, I think it's Halloween, so they're in October, so it gets cold. Um, but I was like, that's a big because it looked like they were like in the middle of the summer, like the beginning of the summer. They weren't even that deep. Like you know, they probably weren't even in July. It might have been June, July that they were in. So this movie makes perfect sense because it's the same actresses with all the same names except for Honey Bear has a different name, but that she's dressed and acts exactly the same from the trailer. Um, and they already know each other in this movie. But in the first season, they all meet each other. So this 2018 movie could perfectly tie in that time gap between the first season, the rest of the summer, like fall, which wearing a little bit more clothes in that first, like more layers in that first movie, ties in the first season, which is summer, into the fall, and then into October, which leads into the winter. This makes perfect sense timeline wise, and I was just trying to figure out this gap and how it didn't make sense, and how the only other thing that doesn't make sense here is if you do that, is that at the, see, I'm putting holes in my own theories. Is that Kurt, the character Kurt, ends the first season with a cast and starts the second season with a cast, but in the movie doesn't have a cast. It sucks because it completely makes that theory inaccurate, and I just realized that. But it would make sense because it's the same characters. Something just fell. I'm good. It's the same characters doing the same thing, and they already know each other. Which I guess maybe it could happen afterwards. I'm not sure, but I just put a whole hole in my theory. So let's move on and forget about my dumb theories. And we'll start with um so this is basically everything from season 1 amplified almost. There's a lot one of the coolest things that I'm just reading off my notes is that um there was a lot more tricks showed. They paid the shots that are primarily skate tape shots are more extreme. They're more of a higher level than what was in the first. The first was just kind of like it showed you stuff, but it was just kind of like you were watching like a trailer or something. You weren't watching anything intense. This steps up the level of the tricks and the sit-ins and the shot angles, and everything's just intensified. Um, Another thing that I noticed in my notes was the character Janae no longer is doing her YouTube show as we know, which kind of sucks because I like that aspect of that character. Um, they don't really touch on Honey Bear's family issues with her dad, which they had touched upon in the first episode in the first season. Um, yeah, so that's basically everything that I'm not gonna that's in my notes that I'm not gonna already talk about, and we'll just start off with the first section of this review, which is themes. So a lot of the themes are the same as culturally and like how skateboarding's looked and how females are treated. That's all this following in from the previous season. But what you get a lot of here is there was a lot. Well, the first season touched a lot on like drug use and stuff. This season touched way more on drinking. There was a lot more drinking, especially towards the later half of the season, and a lot of the effects that has. Um, Obviously, COVID was a theme. Um, they talked about polyamory, uh, escort services, uh, basically how I would define it as like modern day squatting almost, and the respective human of women was huge. Like there was literally a whole like ongoing storyline about teaching all these skate guys to respect women, and I thought that was awesome. And they added humor to it using Kurt, which is makes it easier for someone to process and digest who wouldn't normally agree with what they're watching. Um, Second section, we're going to be talking right now about acting. So I didn't touch on this, like I said. Completely went over my head. Um, it's not incredible, right? Except when the tone changes to call for drama, dramatic stuff, extreme emotional scenes here are key. It really ties in uh the both seasons, ties everything in. When things start to hit that climax, uh hey Zolfer, when things start to hit that climax, that's when these women and even everyone in the show really turns on their acting ability. And I know that most of them are not professional actors, and they're much more grounded and tuned in to the actual theme, which is skating. I think they do a really good job of really amping up the emotion that the story needs and the story that it's intending for its viewers to catch on to. Um, yeah, so I really don't care that the acting isn't top notch, Grammy award winning. I think that the emotional aspect that these people bring to it and the importance and the passion that they bring towards the subject matter is way more important and is completely transparent here. And it also makes you feel like you're watching something that's real and not scripted at all. Um, and then with that, we get onto the visuals. So I broke the visuals up into a couple categories, which was footage, edits, music, lighting, and that was it. So, oh, and then set and scene, which basically just set, shot placement in the places they use to film. Um, Footage. Like I said before, the amount of skate footage and the attention to detail with tricks was improved tremendously off the first season. I think they did a really good job of taking what they did and making it even more so like someone who's been skating and making skate films for years could now watch this and be like, oh, this is way more than like someone outside of the scenes take on this. This is way more invested. And I feel like from the trailer I watched for the movie that came before all this, Skate Kitchen, I felt like in the trailer the skate scenes in there were at this level or better. So I guess when HBO took on the show, they might have dialed it down, or the editor might have been like a little new to it and have picked like more dialed down shots to balance out with the footage. I don't know, but this was definitely way more realistic and way more entertaining. Um, and then towards the last episode, they bring back one of my favorite things in modern day film and editing, because this is going to tie in the editing aspect with the footage aspect. Is that they do the phone selfie angle thing, and this was in terms of like a Instagram live, right? They had comments coming up the bottom and likes and everything. It was literally that setup, and the whole screen turns into that setup, and I love that. I love when and we're going to transition right into the editing. I love when modern day films, they'll put a text bubble on the screen. It's edited right there, and as you're texting, you see it like the scene's progressing visually, but you're also seeing what they're texting. Um, I like when people take things from like I feel like the first one that kind of did it for me that I really enjoyed was Nerve. How everything was like live streamed. Um, you've seen plenty of stuff like Neighbors did the texting thing. I think that this Instagram live thing was really cool. Last season and last episode they did the FaceTime. This one was really cool, and I thought it was a really cool shot, and I thought it was edited perfectly to make sense. Um, right into edits. Um, it continues right from the first season with a really good blend of sitcom style and skate tape style, but with way more attention to that skate demographic. Obviously the shots are still cut rough. The jump shots, but it blends. Like that's the whole thing with a skate. How a skate video is edited. That these rigid, rough, jagged cuts, like these transitions, that normally in a film would be like off-putting, wouldn't make sense. Blends in with the music, blends in with the sheen. You see a board someone fall and that jump cut to the next scene, like it all blends together and really ties in the the whole storytelling aspect of that cutscene, of that scene that's just a transitional scene. I'm so happy that they're using this because a normal like sitcom would just pan the scene into the next scene. Play some music, hit a door, and fade from the door into the next room or whatever. This is usually literally giving you footage, skeet footage, to blend in and act as transitional devices from one scene, from one place to another, and I love that. It warms you up. It it cools you down from what you just saw and warms you up for what you're just gonna see. And the editing is just captivating. It's just really they're getting to the point where it's really refined. And then music ties into that whole aspect. So here is one of the only things that I didn't necessarily think they did as well as the previous season. Um, I thought that this was pretty low key. Um, my opinion was that they stuck to like a sitcom mood. Like that was like the tone. Uh, where I would have liked to see way more of a heavy handed indie feel, like underground music kind of feel, which is what like the skate culture has always been invested in, like gritty rap, underground punk, uh, pop punk, which is definitely not completely tamed. Stuff like that. It's a little edgier, a little louder, jumpier. Uh, I didn't feel that in this season, and that could have just been me. That could have been to meet the tones of the scenes that they were dealing with, because they were definitely dealing with um, deeper plot lines that were way more impactful and way more important than the last season. Uh, but I still think that that music tone could have elevated everything, because the music with the footage, with the edits, it all kind of ties in. And then finally, well, not finally, but with that, you get lighting. So this was a very different season because of the seasonal changes. With winter coming and it getting colder, being the end of October, you have to deal with the cold New York. So, everyone's bundled up. So with lighting, where the first season was primarily outside scenes. Almost every you had a couple apartments, the one convenience store, and that was really all you saw inside. A couple transitional scenes of the Winter Bowl, and that was it. In this season, almost everything was indoors. You had like I see, like it ties into the setting here. You know, you had all sorts of apartments, buildings, warehouses, the church. There were so many different um things going on, like different places that don't present a normal sense of natural lighting, which you can't just use a like white balance card or a bounce card to just capture the scene that you want, the how you want it. This requires a lot of recreating natural light, because obviously there's going to be natural. You want it to look like that warehouse, how it is when you walk in, but the camera's not going to capture it how you're seeing it. You have to literally use devices and use lights and use bounce cards and all sorts of stuff to make sure that that one shot that you're getting, that area that you're getting, looks the way it would if you saw it, because it's going to be different. And they did a really good job of lighting all these indoor sites and scenes, because especially the warehouse that they used, the chocolate factory, was huge open wide space, big ceilings and everything. So like that, you're working with a very difficult place. Like you can't hang things from the ceiling because it's too high. Like everything's very open. The windows are very far away, so you get no natural light from that. It would be very difficult, I can tell. And they did an excellent job. And I already talked about with lighting how that these scenes reflected the change of the season and everything, and they did a really good job of capturing what winter would look like for a skater in New York. Bundled up, and they just captured the COVID thing too perfectly, where everyone wearing masks, keeping apart, the whole atmosphere of that time period, especially when New York, like they didn't want people to come in, they didn't want people going out, so you're kind of trapped there. Um, they did a really, really good job, I would think, um, in this season with capturing the setting and lighting those difficult places that they were filming in and conveying that sense of you know it's winter now, it's October now, it's cold, we're inside a warehouse, this is what it looks like. They conveyed that perfectly. And with that, we end that section of the whole visuals, and we go right into setting, which again, a lot of these things tie in because of of the type of genre this is, um, and how they're capturing a time period and a place, and those things are culturally tied in together. So, um, basically, the basics of the cultural and geographical setting remain the same as the previous season, but obviously they had to change things with COVID and make. They did a really good job. Like I said, they did a really good job of making it feel like it was literally October 20, 2020. You know, last October, when which was only what, like less than a year ago now. They did a really good job. Um, the way that the wardrobe worked for this season was perfect, because like during the first season, summer, you see everyone dressed, barely wearing any clothes and this and that, and now you're seeing everyone bundled up and wearing all that stuff. I didn't see as many, I might not have been paying attention, as many skate references as I did in the first season. um, but I thought it was cool. I thought the setting was perfectly laid out and perfectly described visually. Now we get into the characters. So we have the main cast, which was Janae, Kurt, Honey Bear, Camille, and Indigo. But you get a lot of side characters that get way more attention in this season than the previous season. Um, Ash returns, which is Honey Bear's girlfriend. She brings in this whole theme of polyamory with Victoria, and then Honey Bear getting involved with this guy that we only see for like two scenes. Um, Camille, another theme that I didn't really touch on was relationships. It was really heavy in this issue, like romantic relationships and their friendships were super tested, and everyone had to like figure out what they were going on and what they were going through. Camille, who created a relationship with a character named Ty. Indigo was pretty much the same, having to discover herself. Kurt, um, having a fling with a side character, Micah's girlfriend Shelby, who became pretty way more important than he did. You get all the weird like skate guys from the previous season with a bunch of new guys that such as Micah and Ugly Charlie. You get Janae's uncle, who is pretty important here. Um, you only another note is that Farouk was only in the show like twice, barely involved. That upset me because I really liked Farouk as a character, and when he came in like the second episode or the first episode, I was really hyped about it. And then you don't see him again until like the end. That was annoying. Trying to think of other characters that didn't really get. They put Janae completely pushed out the guy that she used to do the YouTube show with. The twins that were showed skating at the end of last season that had created that that Janai had talked to, because they were the ones that had the problem with that guy. They weren't really seen at all throughout this, even though I'm pretty sure in real life they're part of Skate Kitchen with them. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of anyone else that was pretty important that wasn't really involved uh, from last season to this season. I think that's it. Character character development was really heavy in this season. They did a really good job of making you relate and care about these characters, Where as the previous season you were just learning about them, now you were learning to care about them. And that ties really into the plot. Like the main overarching plot of this series, it spans everybody's individual plot and kind of ties it all together. Is that as we make it into October, um, and they're dealing with the real life complications of COVID. Um, the Winter Bowl, their indoor skate park, which they was featured in the first season, um, as one of the plot points of them trying to get in there and get accepted. Now that they're accepted, they skate there and they're accepted there. It's getting shut down because of failure to be able to support the lease. They couldn't do it because COVID and the loans and everything. They shut down. And basically they're told that Winter Bowl's gone. They lost their lease. You guys are out. You guys take the ramps. You have 2 days to get the ramps out of here. But they now need to find a place to put the ramps, and they need a place for that to exist. They need a new winter spot, right? And that it was basically finding that was like the first 3 episodes was basically about finding it and setting it up, and then the rest of the season was supporting it. Was the plot line was supporting this place, making sure that they didn't lose it, making sure that it stayed low key, but also being able to get money through this. Um, I'll talk about Indigo first because she had two plot lines I liked. Um, she finds the abandoned chocolate factory because her mother didn't want to buy it. That's how she knew about it. And this creates this need for her to keep everything low key. This internal struggle to make, hey, everyone, like, knock it off, don't tell anyone about this, don't get too big, whatever, because that's going to cause more complication with her mom internally in her head. She doesn't want to get caught because they're not supposed to be there, stuff like that. That was an internal struggle for her, um, until a certain point, when the second plot line really took over. Like, they were both coexisting, and then the second plot line for her really took over her character as the season progressed. And that was, again, she was having money issues. This time it wasn't drug money. This time, obviously, at the end of the first season, she gets kicked out, right? She's no longer allowed to live at home, and she's living bumming off Camille, and she's paying rent to be there. And then she quits her job because she gets in a fight with a customer that wouldn't wear a mask, quits her job, whatever. And basically, this internally pushes her as she meets friends through that skate friends that are like, hey, like, basically they do escorting, and it pushes her to do this, and her desire to get money pushes her to break a lot of the rules that they set up for her. That they said, you will be safe if you follow this. If you do this, you'll be fine. She broke every rule because she was pushed. She had this desire, and it leads to her character having like a real internal struggle breakdown. That it gets resolved. I don't want to spoil it too much. Like, I'm spoiling. There's gonna be like half spoilers because I really want everyone to watch this show and discover these characters and what they go through. But yeah, her revelation at the end is really cool, and what happens at the end is gonna probably hopefully tie into a third season. Camille. Um, so Camille dealt with emotional relational feelings in the first season, and this season she finds herself getting sponsored by a skate brand called NFD. I think it was uh, Night for Days, but it's not exactly what she intended for. She's pushed into uncomfortable positions, doing photo shoots and stuff. Kind of how Indigo was, talked into those skate photo shoots, and it wasn't what the culture is. It wasn't reflecting who she is, and it wasn't what she wanted to do. And her struggle throughout the season is letting her friends down, betraying her other skate friends like Ty, to be sponsored and get this free stuff and look and feel um awkward and weird in her own body, or does she, what does she do? Um, they made a skate film together, a tape, her and Ty, and this company cut Ty completely out. when Ty was originally the person that had the connection with the company. Um, so that's a plot line that she has to deal with. Uh, Honey Bear has Honey Bear and Ash are going through. I thought the Ringer. I thought they were having a problem, right? But like halfway through the issue, the season because of the plot line. But it gets resolved and whatever works out. I was scared. I was for this plot line. I was scared. Um, Honey Bear's still trying to figure out herself. Um, and they do this whole thing where they're experimenting with toys and this, and then going to sex shops, and Ash meets this person that she, is attracted to, and they do the whole polyamory thing, the threesome relationship, and excuse me, Honey Bear voices her concerns, and it's kind of like brushed off, and she becomes uncomfortable. She meets this guy who's flirting with her on the ferry, and she's still just questioning, figuring out stuff, and it causes this relational conflict between their relationship uh, that they have to work out. Finally, you get Kurt again. Well, not finally, but you get Kurt, and last season Kurt was like crazy all over the place. She was nuts. Like I didn't even know what. Like she was just used to pull other plots apart, right? This time she really had her own plot. She finally gets a cast off in the first season, um, and she's been teaching all these guys at the skate park how to treat women, how to respect women, how to take care of women. The importance that they can't be disrespectful to women, and not to help them out, not to make their lives better, but to make all the women around her better. She gets into a conflict with Shelby, who's Micah's girlfriend, and why are you flirting with my boyfriend, whatever? And she's like, no, like I was talking about you, like I was helping him take care of you. And she's like, oh, and like realizes that that Kirk is a lesbian, and it creates this whole fling where Shelby and Kurt, you know, they hook up and then they're hanging out and they go on this whole adventure for Kurt to find herself, right? And then it leads down a pathway that I didn't see coming. That was a real kick in the face for Kurt. And then finally, out of the main characters, Janae's plot line is basically that she takes charge of the chocolate factory. After they find it, she takes full command of setting it up and organizing this and organizing the skate sessions and fundraisers and this and that. Um, but her and I still don't know his goddamn name. All right, so I couldn't. I just every time that this guy's name was brought up, I completely could not pay attention to it. But there's a main character. Let me see if I can figure it out right now, real quick. Come on, this is not going to work. So no, he's not like a real actor. So like, there's a lot of like short films that are tied into this. Um, yeah, I'm not 100% sure what his name is, but Janai and this guy take over the project of leading and putting everyone together and leading, and they develop a relationship and they start catching feelings, but she has to now battle her own personal demons. Um, you know, she goes through this whole thing of having to find herself and what she wants and how, how this person is. And the guy has no problems. I feel like I had no issues. It was more that she wasn't used to someone, I guess, being so nice that it causes her to have to reflect on herself. And she has a bunch of sit downs with like her uncle, who is also a storyline that she helps out with. Um, is that he was a cook for a homeless shelter, I believe, or an retirement home or something, where he would feed all the elderly people in the community, take care of them. And with his loans getting denied and him, COVID and everything getting shut down, uh, Janai finds a spot, a kitchen inside the chocolate factory where he's able to work out of. And this results in his own plot line that ties everybody together, which results in Skate Kitchen. And I know I didn't go too far. I tried not to go too far into like the solution, everyone's plot lines. I didn't want to, how they're resolved and what they really lead to for the next season if there is one. But I really did enjoy how everybody's plot lines were way more dramatic, way more intense, way more realistic. They dealt on so many um themes that are just so relatable. So many crazy themes while also making this a skate show. Like it was just a really well done experience. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 overall, just like I did last for the last season. I think this is a crazy watch. I'm definitely going to watch the movie Skate Kitchen on Hulu. I believe that these are interconnected. It's all the same you know, it's the same settings, it's the same characters, the same names, the same actors and actresses. Um, I just don't know how it ties in because Kurt in this movie doesn't have a cast on, but they met each other in the show. I don't know. I don't know if it's related or not. It feels related from the trailer. Yeah, but that was the review. Um, Definitely, if you guys have any suggestions, you can leave it in the chat, in the comments. You can go on my Twitter and you can tweet me what you want me to review. DM me on Instagram at Vinycasket or Vinycasket Comics. Subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and comment. I really appreciate it. If you're watching this on Twitch or watching the VOD on Twitch, if you could follow and subscribe, and I could really appreciate it. Um, yeah, that was my review. That was HBO's Betty season 2. Uh, premiere just ended, I think last week. So it's fresh. The season is fresh off out of the bakery oven. It's out there. Definitely check it out. Uh, Tell me what you guys would rate it. It was a 9 out of 10 for me. Um, yeah, like I said, like, comment, subscribe, follow on all my platforms. It really helps me out. The next thing I'm probably going to be doing is uh, Kevin Smith's Master of the Universe show that just premiered on Netflix. I believe that I'm going to do the first 5 or 6 episodes of that, unless they release the whole season soon. There's also a Netflix. There's a Gundam movie that just came out, anime on Netflix. And then I have a bunch of stuff. And I want to do some Kevin Smith stuff. I want to do the Jurassic Park movies. I'm probably gonna do Skate Kitchen. So any suggestions, I'll take. I'll do everything. I really like this. I think this is a cool platform. Um, and once again, this is the Vinycasket. I am Nick. Please stay lame. Catch you guys next time.